All right, everybody, so we're gonna go ahead and just dive in and get started directly onto our final project, okay? So the goal with this is to mix colors that are incrementally darker than the one before it, so either a tint of a color or a shade of a color, and then also watching your craftsmanship. Okay, so I want you to just do the best job that you can with the brushes, holding them correctly, using the right type brush for the correct space, and just make sure you're thinking about keeping that drippy paint inside the line. So it's all about color mixing and application. Now, a couple things. I have everything set up for myself. I want you to notice one real quick thing. See how my water cup and also my palette are on a paper towel and it's on top of part of my color wheel. If it helps you to have your stuff closer to the part that you are working on, that's fine. Just make sure you're working on a paper towel, okay? And I'm also gonna use this paper towel to blot my paintbrush tool off onto. Now you should have two different paintbrushes that look like this. One is a small round brush. A round brush comes to a point. One is a small flat. So the flat, the hairdo is cut straight across the top. This one is our color mixing brush, okay, our smidgen brush. This is our application brush in most cases. So anytime we're working with a straight line or angle or a larger curve, we're gonna use the flat to apply, okay? Now we're mixing tints of a color, so color plus white, or shades of a color plus black. We always start with the lighter color as the base and add the darker ones in. Okay, so we're gonna start with red again. Again, we're gonna go from cotton candy to bubblegum to pure red to vampire blood, vampire death, okay, through the shades, all right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start us off. I'm gonna use my small round brush. I'm gonna grab a smidgen of my pure color, which in this case happens to be red. So smidgen is a small amount. And I am going to mix it into my lighter color. Okay, so I'm going to go gradually from tint 1, tint 2, pure color, shade 1, shade 2. Okay, so lightest gradually to darkest to create my value scale. Okay, now at this point in time, I'm going to mix it until it's completely swirly, or past swirly and awesome, to something that is thoroughly mixed. And this looks beautiful and amazing. So I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna pick up my application brush, which is, in this case, my flat. And I'm gonna use my flat for this because I've got a straight line and angle, okay? Now at this point in time, I'm gonna hold my paintbrush by the grippy so I have control over stuff. I can either go this direction, lightest to darkest, or I can go this direction, lightest to darkest, okay? If you have a different pattern within your design, just try and keep shapes in order, lightest to darkest, okay? So I'm gonna hold this here, hold my paintbrush by the grippy. Anytime I run out of paint, I can go ahead and redip. And holding it by that grip is going to allow me, there we go. It's gonna allow me to keep that color inside the lines, okay? Fairly simple. Now I went over a little bit of my Sharpie. I can re-Sharpie that when my paint is dry early next class. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my paintbrush in my water cup. I'm gonna dab my paintbrush off onto my paper towel. Okay, get that paintbrush tool off. And then I'm going to create my second tint of a color, okay? Now, I have to go back to my color mixing brush, which is my smaller scale round brush that looks like this. So how do I make this tint darker? Okay, if I want to make this tint of a color darker, if I want to turn it into bubblegum, I'm going to add another smidgen. Okay, I can be a little bit more generous with my smidgen this time. Okay, I'm using a small brush anyway, so it's going to be a small amount. So I'm using that small round brush. I'm mixing it up. Mix past to where it looks swirly and awesome. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and test blob it here. Now my goal with the test blob is just to see what it looks like once I have mixed it thoroughly. Sometimes it's hard to see what it looks like in here, so I always test blob it. So my question becomes, does this look darker than the one before it? The answer is yes. Okay, to me it looks darker than the one before it. Let's say though that I added a smidgen and it really doesn't change color, okay? How do I continue to make this darker? Grab my small round brush, my smidgen brush, add another smidgen. So I'll just do that just for kicks. And I will mix it until it is no longer swirly and awesome in the crater. Okay, test blob it. that looks good. And I will pick up my other brush and apply it. Okay, so something that looks like this. So I'm picking up my flat, holding my flat by the grippy, okay, and I'm going to attempt to keep that color inside of my lines, okay? Now, if you have something with a shape with small points or something like that, small awkward places and spaces, feel free to use your smidgen brush for that, okay? Your round brush. That round brush can get into all kinds of small awkward places and spaces, okay? So I'm rinsing both my brushes. I am going to blot them off, and at this point I'm ready for my pure color, okay? So my pure color, I don't have to mix anything to get that pure color. It is red, okay? So pure color is gonna go next. I'm gonna pick that up with my flat, hold it by the grippy, and apply it real quick. Right now you'll notice that each of these is looking incrementally darker than the one before it. Okay, now I'm noticing right now I'm starting to have a hard time getting into that corner, so I am going to use my small round brush and I'll apply it in there. Just like so.